Hello, my name is Ken Carlson. I've been an attorney since 1980, specializing in helping tenants with their landlord problems. I'm a graduate of UC Berkeley and Loyola Law Schools. I operate the caltenantlaw.com website, providing free legal information as well as inexpensive attorney help with tenants' rental problems. It has already started happening. You'll see it happening more and faster starting in 2025. The advance of technology in artificial intelligence, abbreviated AI, and robots. I call them chips and bots. Technology is causing people to be laid off and replaced by chips and bots. With Elon Musk in charge of government efficiency, we can expect huge layoffs of federal government workers to be replaced by his own chips and bots. Manufacturers and other businesses all over the world are also turning to chips and bots for cost-cutting, higher efficiency, and higher profits. Even the bot factories are replacing humans with bots. Hardly any business will be unaffected. It's not an exaggeration, it's not a joke. This is real, and it will affect you and your ability to have a home and support yourself and your family. Watch any online video on the topic, and you'll see the remarkable feats that chips and bots can do. The pitch is that it will make the world a better place, taking away the boring and repetitive jobs. That is, all that many people have had to make ends meet. They also admit that information-based jobs, such as accounting, clerical work, banking, investments, and communications, are all fertile targets for robotic and AI replacement. Food service, entertainment, driving, and health services are also replacing people with chips and bots. Even lawyers already have chatbots pretending to help with legal issues, research, and writing. It's ugly and dangerous. In the short term, it all looks rosy for the bosses laying off people. They see robots and AI both working 24/7, correctly and on time. It's a smooth operation without unions or strikes, office politics, vacations, pensions, sick days, insurance, or insubordination. They ask, who needs people? However, in the long term, the growing and massive unemployment will result in a deep financial depression. Only a few people will be able to afford to buy whatever it is that the robots and AI are doing. By then, you'll just be a statistic. Your unemployment insurance and other resources will have run out. There's a concept in economics embraced by the conservatives called the invisible hand, which is that by everyone looking out for their own best interests, somehow it will all work out. It's a fiction used to convince people that letting businesses act without government protections of the public is a good idea. As the individual bosses replace employees with chips and bots, they only see their own operation, assuming that everything else will remain the same. It's a false assumption, because more and more businesses will be buying these machines and firing or laying off more and more people. The businesses will have fewer and fewer customers because, robots don't shop there. As for the landlords, we've learned from the COVID crisis that they don't care if you're unemployed. They show no mercy in taking away your home if they don't get the rent. They expect another bailout, just like they got the trillions of federal tax dollars shoved into their pockets. That was called the Tenant Relief Act. Another concept in economics is called the multiplier effect, part of a larger concept known as Keynesian economics. The idea is that a healthy economy is not just the collective wealth of the individuals, but the circulation of money itself. If nobody spent anything, the economy doesn't exist. When one person spends money, The receiver also spends part of that money, and so forth, until each dollar has become a total of $5 or so in the economy. It's how the government can spend and then get it all back in taxes from the people who circulated it. That is how we got out of the Depression in the 30s. The problem is that if people are replaced by chips and bots, the money that would have been earned is not spent, so that for each dollar, the entire economy is hurt by $5. Every business suffers indirectly, causing business failures, even more layoffs, and it's a downward spiral. How can a government stay afloat since the chips and bots don't pay taxes? The invisible hand is making a disrespectful gesture. You need to save for a rainy day, and those rain clouds are already on the horizon, even if you have not already been laid off. The Aesop's fable about the ants and the grasshopper come to mind. You should cut back on your extravagant spending and try to save up for when you will need it. You might want to consider moving outside of the urban areas where the cost of housing is much less and work from home through the internet if you can. The cities could become violent places. You might also want to look into backup jobs so that in case you are laid off, you already have work lined up. If you have cyber investments like Bitcoin, sell them now before the collapse comes, when, like a run on the bank, investors sell off their coins at lower and lower prices to cover their cost of living. Remember, its only value is subjective, that is, what people think it's worth, using herd mentality. Cybercurrency is a fantasy that suddenly could have no value, like a pyramid scheme. In contrast, gold has at least some inherent practical value, such as jewelry, and it is internationally tied to the price of oil. The dollar itself is at least regulated by the government to keep it stable. Cybercoins run wild. If you're laid off, even if you have savings to cover the rent, it's probably best that you don't pay. You should watch my video on rent eviction to see how to prepare for that. You can try to work out something with the landlord first, but don't get your hopes up. We saw from the COVID crisis that the landlords don't appreciate that you paid the rent during COVID from your savings and credit accounts, because as soon as you were late after that, they were ready to evict you. The growth of evictions from chip and bot layoffs will dwarf COVID numbers. The courts will not be able to handle all of the cases and will become hopelessly backlogged. The government will be unable to justify a moratorium on evictions as they did for COVID because COVID was temporary, but the economic collapse from layoffs is not. An eviction could take years to complete. Other tenants in your building may also be laid off and not paying rent, so that your landlord may not be able to afford to evict anyone and have to drastically reduce rents just to have the money for the mortgage. The landlord may lose the property on foreclosure, and then you have the bank to bargain with. It's hard to see in advance how it may all go, but you can at least buy the time you need to relocate just by fighting the eviction. We plan on winning, as you'll see in the other videos. When it happens to you, remember to come back for our help. We're always here for you.